Hey everyone, this is Julia Barbaro, host of the Julia and Gino podcast. I'm here with the co-founder of Jake and Gino, my husband and co-host, Gino Barbaro.
Hi, Julia.
Hey.
How are you?
Amazing, thank you.
What are you doing today?
Had an inspection the whole day.
We can share this with our guests. We are buying a farm, believe it or not, and it's going to be an interesting.
Yes, we took Veronica,
journey.
who is the farm girl. I think she was just born.
We're craving space.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's get to today's show. Today's guest is Sam
No,
Sorbo.
I'm so jealous.
What are you jealous about?
I'm jealous. Who's Veronica and why is she the farm girl?
Veronica's the blonde.
Yes. She is the blonde. So we have 6 children. All of them are dark. They're beautiful. Dark eyes, dark hair, dark skin. She's the blonde, the blue eyes. She loves like the cowboy boots and the whole, long blonde curly hair. She's left-handed. She's just the different one out of the family. And she was like, she's still in shock that we're buying this farm. It has no animals on it yet.
Not yet.
But just the idea. We live near the beach. We all miss a yard, grass, dirt.
How old is Veronica?
Veronica
she's
is
15.
15.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yes.
So she's going to be great. She's the difficult one. She's the one that's going to rage against the machine.
Yes.
She's the hard one.
She will never.
It's great. We like it.
Yeah. She, like we always say, she's never going to be taken advantage of.
As a
which I
parent,
love.
you hate it, but you love it at
Yes.
the same time. So there's that duality where sometimes, could you just please listen to me and just do what I say? But at the same time, when you
I
grow
love
up,
it.
you're going to make your own decisions.
Absolutely.
And you're going to be a strong
She's
woman.
a strong woman for sure.
We jumped in here before, so
I love
let me
Yes.
introduce
Let's
Sam.
introduce Sam. I'm excited. I'm super excited to have you on.
Her journey is nothing short of inspiring. Before becoming a successful Hollywood film actress, she studied biomedical engineering. Wow. At Duke University. During that success, she bravely decided to pause her career and devote over a decade to homeschooling her 3 children. Woo! Welcome to the show. Sam, how are we doing?
So good.
Oh, it's so good to have you. Like I said, we did talk to your husband. It was a great conversation, but I have a feeling this one's going to be even better. Just a thought.
So, Sam, what made you stop and what made you go to homeschooling? Because that is going to college, getting a degree, out in the workforce. You're seeing other women do it. And then you said, time out. I want to stop this and I want to raise my kids.
Well, it sort of predated that. What happened was I was in college and I was working on an ulcer because I had been raised to go to college, go to a good college, get a degree, seek higher education, get a career, make a lot of money. And so I had to step away from that because the pressure was getting to me and I was getting sick. And so I took a year off and I modeled for a year and I made a crap load of money. And I went back to college and all of a sudden college was like butter. It was like the easiest thing ever because the pressure was off. And so then I was going, well, I kind of want to do the other stuff because that's a lot of money. I'm not going into debt doing that. And I get to travel the world and I get to learn foreign languages and I get to do everything else and maybe even go into acting, which is what I really wanted to do from the beginning anyway. And so I quit college and I did that. And as I was doing that, I just sort of went, wait a minute. They promised me that if I earned a lot of money, that was going to be the answer to my happiness. And I'm not particularly happy. Like I'm fine and I'm pursuing my dreams and that's good, but the money doesn't bring me happiness. What else didn't they tell me? So I went on a search for meaning, the meaning of life, if you will, and found God, and became a Christian. And then fast forward to my 3 kids who had already expressed their desire to be with me. But I was acting at the time that I got married. Okay. Right before I got married, Kevin suffered 3 strokes. So you've talked to him. He probably shared that story with you. So I walked away from my career to help him recover for 3 years. And in the process, we started our family. We lived in Vancouver for 5 years while I was having children, and I was not allowed to work in Canada, full stop. So when we got back to LA, I had 3 little kids, and I started to try to work again. And I came home one day from an audition. This is early, like my third audition or so. And my little toddler Octavia chased me around the house with her little finger. No, 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 like scolding me. And I was like, what's that about? So I picked her up, put her on my hip, and she whip turned to the nanny and said, bye-bye. And, it got me thinking, our kids want us.
Mm.
They think that we hung the sun and the moon, for crying out loud.
Yeah.
And we sacrifice our children so easily in this culture. We hate children today.
Yeah.
This culture hates children, even while it says it loves children. Oh, we want the best for your children. We're going to teach them all about sex when they're 5.
Right. Right. Yeah. I love
So
this.
who is they? You said they told me this and they told me that.
That's a
Who
good
are you
question.
referring to?
Schools.
Oh, schools. Okay.
Yeah. No, I like that.
And what was your influence from your parents or from your peers? What did they say?
My mother wanted me to go to college. Well, I was raised to go to college.
Yeah.
I didn't really have a father figure. I had a stepfather for a brief time, but he was kind of a dud. So my mother wanted me to go to college because she didn't go to college, and that was the worst thing that she ever did, and blah blah blah. And so you got to go to college, and you got to get a career, and but the school is the one that told me, make the money.
Right.
And I'll tell you this, I had a great acting coach in school. The drama teacher was this pretty young thing who had been to New York, was not successful. So of course she's going to tell me you can't be successful as an actress because she wasn't successful as an actress. And these are the people that are feeding into your children.
And when you spoke to your mom and you go, what did mom say once you said, hey, I'm going to go get a career and then I'm going to go to college, but then I quit college and even more, I'm going to stay home with my kids. Did you get any pushback from her? Or?
No, not really.
Oh, that's awesome.
That's beautiful. I love your story because it's something we battle with too, because we have 5 daughters and I see the beauty of
I'm one of
marriage. 5. There you go. And there's a beautiful aspect of just, I didn't go to college at first. I worked after, but my desire was to stay home and everyone gave me a hard time. I mean, everyone, I actually had women yelling at me that I just wanted to stay at home and raise children because society tells you that there's no value in that. And I'm so thankful that there's someone like you is speaking like, no, there is value in that. And it's so worth it. And yes, it actually is harder than working sometimes. That's why my husband works so hard.
But once you said bye to the nanny, and by the way, everyone always says, I'm doing it for my kids. I'm going to work and working 60 hours a week. I'm doing it for my kids. If you're saying that, just see the veracity in that statement. Is it true? It may be. A lot of that part may be true, and it's okay if it is true or it isn't true. Just check yourself and say, there may be a little bit of your desire to go as well. So don't blame your kids. Don't always blame it on the kids for wanting to work harder. It's not a good or bad thing. But what happened once you said goodbye to the nanny? Is that when you decided, hey, I'm going to stop and I'm going to start homeschooling?
Yeah, I mean, it was a shift that took place over a couple of years, actually, because we moved for the schools. So we moved to the better school district. My oldest went to 1st and 2nd grade. My other 2 both did kindergarten because what's the harm? It's a half-day kindergarten. Well, I'll tell you what the harm is. It took 10 years for my daughter to finally recognize and tell me. She probably recognized it years ago, but to finally tell me that the reason that she feels stupid is because of what happened to her in kindergarten.
Oh.
Wow.
I tell that as a cautionary tale because what I want you to understand is she's very bright in ways that I can't fathom. So she'll say something, she'll have a conclusion of something, and she'll tell me, and I'll just go, wow, that's insightful. That didn't even occur to me, right? Every time that happened, she thought I was lying to her because she knew better, because she learned in kindergarten that she was just stupid.
It's amazing.
And
yeah.
The thing that happened in kindergarten was probably something as banal as, I mean, I know what it was. She read her sight words, but she didn't do as good a job as she had wanted to do. And she didn't do as good a job as the little boy who was perfect. And the class laughed at her. And so, I pick her up from school that day, and it's probably a conversation like, oh, it was so cute. Octavia tried to do her sight words and she messed up a little bit. We all laughed. It was pretty funny. right? And I think nothing of it. And then 10 years later, I learn that she has considered herself stupid. And that's what I've been battling against all this entire decade.
Mhm.
That stopped me short.
So is it one of those things
Wow.
where us as parents really need to have the deep conversations? And I mean, that's something we would consider a trauma, but most people don't consider that as a trauma, but that absolutely affects a child as they get older. How do we as parents even understand that? Because it took you 10 years, but you finally did. And that is an epiphany. That is a life-changing moment that you had with your child. And to make them understand that they don't fit in a box, that they have their own unique gifts and their own unique talents.
Mhm.
How can we as parents even like start having that conversation with our kids to see how we messed them up, or how anything in any of those situations ended up messing them up?
Well, I'll tell you this. We send our children away from us way too easily. We've been conditioned to do so by the people who were in charge of our education for 13 years plus.
Mm-hmm.
And we're in charge of our parents' education. So our parents sacrificed us, and now we are sacrificing our children. So if you want to have those conversations with your children, you got to start young, and you have to start engaging them, and you should never send them away from you. Never send them to
Mm-hmm.
an alternate authority, basically. I
Mm-hmm.
say never. Like, okay, karate class twice a week or whatever. That's different. That's karate. And that's basically only karate.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe the karate instructor has some good life lessons. Like, I remember our karate coach used to say, and what do we do when we make a mistake? And then the whole class said, we fix it. Well, that's a great lesson, but I sat there during karate class because I wanted to know what was he going to input in my kids. And if you're not there for all of that, you're going to miss out on that one crucial conversation that could really highlight what you've been missing all this time.
Mm-hmm.
Sam, I love what you're saying. Because this is what we've done, and I feel like we did it accidental because we started homeschooling like 20 plus years ago.
We did it when it wasn't cool, and I felt sort of embarrassed because
Yeah.
I owned a restaurant at the time, and all the public school teachers would come in and go, "So where does your kid go to school?" I'm like, "Well, 151 Barton Road, that's where I lived." I'm like, it was such an embarrassing conversation to have. And then obviously this one goes out, and we start having kids at home, so we have home births as well. So I'm like, we don't trust any authority, and I'm thinking to myself, I am the weird person. Fast forward to today, and I am it, man. I am the cool guy on the street. I figured it out, and I'm
You're
going to
the
share
OG.
I'm going to share a quick story with you and for all the listeners. I've never told this to anybody, but I had a friend who was in construction, would come into the restaurant, and they would sit at the round table with all their construction buddies, and they'd all make fun of Gino. He's homeschooling the kids and blah, blah, blah. Talked to him 2 years ago, and he called me up. He says, I just want to let you know, you did the right thing. He says, I sent my kids to school. They're not train wrecks, but they're not great. He says, I really respect and admire what you did. I'm like, bro, it's a couple of years too late, but it's okay. But just to let any of you out there who are
No.
considering it, just give it a shot. And if you can teach your kids to walk and to talk and to swim, you can absolutely.
But I was
teach
getting
them.
to the point of the sacrifice as the mother. And I think that's what I want to ask you, Sam, because it is the ultimate giving of yourself, right? You are sacrificing your time, everything about you as a mom by staying home with them, not sending them to camp, not sending them. I mean, I know people that send their kids for a summer camp for the whole summer. And my kids are like horrified that's even allowed, but it doesn't make sense to them. But can you touch on the sacrifice that you made about just being with, like you said, don't send your kids away, the sacrifice that you made and the impact it had on you and your marriage?
Yeah. So first of all, I want to say I tear up when I hear about the parents who regret because they've lost their kids. I hear it way too often. And that's why I've become so strident in my language, because I try to shake them when they're young enough to still do something about it. When it comes to sacrifice, let's talk about that word, because we have a misunderstanding of the word sacrifice in our culture, right? So, in fact, I had a debate on Patrick Bet-David with a guy named Destiny, who's apparently very well known in certain circles. And he maintains that a sacrifice is the giving up of something. And I corrected him, because we never voluntarily sacrifice unless we're getting something greater in return.
Mm.
So when you say I sacrificed my career, hell yeah. Like, and you can have it, because what I got in return is just full out worth so much more.
Yeah.
And I heard a story the other day of a guy, wealthy guy, went into a convenience store by the side of the road in the middle of nowhere just to pick up, chips. And it's the day after Christmas, and he meets the convenience store operator, who's a heavyset woman, who's, dressed in, whatever, nothing special. And so they get to talking because she's friendly, and he says, well, what did you do for Christmas? And she said, well, honey, I worked here in the morning. And he's thinking, oh my gosh, this poor gal. And then I went home and I cooked for my kids, and I had all my kids home except for Joey. He's in prison, but he'll be out soon. And I did this, and it was spent the day together. And he's just thinking, this poor gal, her life is like useless. Like, what a horrible way of existence. And she looks at him and she goes, I know, I'm blessed. She has 7 kids.
Wow.
Mhm.
She's blessed. But we think of children as writing a check.
Yeah.
We think of children as a burden. In fact, we had a president who said that he didn't want his daughters to be burdened with a baby.
Mhm.
A pro death president, a pro murder president. So when we talk about sacrifice, we have to be very careful with that word, because people misunderstand it. Yes, I sacrificed. Yay! I got to sacrifice my career. Hallelujah. I got to sacrifice not going on auditions for the joy of spending as much time as I had to spend with my kids. And my gosh, my kids are amazing people. And I helped them become that. And that is like, that's my pride and joy, man, right there. That's my whole life. I sacrificed my career to take care of my husband, because that was much more meaningful to me. My career was so meaningless without a husband and a family. And that's the lie that we tell young women, is that they want a career and they don't need a family. And that's a lie from the pit of hell. And we have to stop doing that to our kids. And we have to stop doing the tremendous disservice to our young men by removing their purpose and telling them that they should just have sex all the time, and they don't have to take care of a woman. They don't need to take care of a family. We're completely eliminating their purpose by calling it toxic. That is literally the man's purpose, is to be that element of toxicity that they claim is toxic, right?
Mhm.
That's his whole raison d'être, right? And yet we're removing that from young men. And this is my fear, is that when we remove their purpose and tell them, no, if you want to pursue being a patriarch, which is really the purpose of a young man, is to be a patriarch. When we remove that and tell them, no, you can't want that, does that then predispose them to becoming predator?
That's a good question. And Sam, I can share with you, every time we had a child, or my wife was pregnant, it wasn't congratulations. It was, another college,
It was
or another
very
wedding.
negative.
It was the weirdest thing. I'm like saying to myself, this is very
just like she
strange.
said, my side of the family, Irish Catholics, we're used to a big family, but the outside world, we're horrible. Like I got some really bad negativity.
The other one was, is it all with the same wife? I'm like, that's
Yeah,
great.
that
I
was
mean,
another
come
one,
on
yeah,
already. Instead of saying congratulations.
Yes. But that's really the reason why we do these podcasts. And that's why we have people like you on, is because we're trying to show the beauty of family, show the beauty of marriage and children. And just like you were talking about, just the beauty of being a mom, and the joys of being home. And yes, it's difficult. And yes, there are times where you don't sleep for, 15 years or whatever it is. But I look back and it's all worth it.
I slept,
of course.
baby.
I mean,
I don't know about you, but I slept like a baby.
I made sure he slept because he worked really hard at the restaurant making money, obviously. but I think that's
And
my
that's, by the
message.
way, that's his purpose. He's fulfilling his
Yes,
purpose. And
exactly.
when you're home in bed at night and there's an intruder, he doesn't say to you, honey, I think this time is your time, you know, go grab the
Thank you.
bat. Good luck. Let me know how it goes. You know, that's the difference. And they're just, you know, the enemies of freedom, are trying to destroy our culture in that manner. And we don't have to let it happen.
Yeah.
You can keep your children home.
Yeah.
You can educate them. And by the way, let's redefine education now, because the schools have redefined it from what it used to be. So education used to be the indoctrination of a child. It used to be you taking your doctrine, your worldview, your religion, and instilling it in your child so that they saw the world the way you thought it was proper for them to see the world, right? Well, what happened was the schools came along and said, oh, no, your religion has no place in our school. We want the school to be non-religious. But of course, that's not possible because you can't be without having a religion. And so they installed secularism, which is an entirely different doctrine. And then they began to indoctrinate in secularism. But that wasn't enough for them. Now they have advanced, because while they were indoctrinating in secularism, they were still teaching the ABCs and the 3 R's, right? They were still doing academics. And so they convinced us that it wasn't doctrine, it was only academic. Now they've stopped doing the academics and now it's only doctrine. And we're standing here going, but wait, the academics, like do the academics and only the academics. But we're the ones that are wrong. We should bring the children home, give them a smattering of academics, but really focus on doctrine, because it's character formation and it's relationship formation that you should be focused on, and not so much the ABCs. So that they've created this thirst in us that our kids know all the ABCs, because when we went to school, we didn't learn everything. And we feel like that's our shortcoming. Like somehow we messed up on that one math test. And so that's our shortcoming in life, which of course, if you like extract it and you look at it, you go, well, that's absurd. But this is literally, like, I believe this is the thirst that we have, this fear that we have, that if I don't send my child to school, he'll be stupid,
Yeah.
right? Which is the opposite. If you don't send your child to school, he'll be brilliant. If you send him to school, he'll be stupid and hateful and vengeful against you for sending him to school. And goodness knows what else, right? So you keep him home and you get a shooting star. You send him to school. School is gravity.
Sam, when did you have that, I guess, conversion at the beginning of the relationship with God? Because when you talking about a sacrifice, and it's not really a sacrifice, you're doing something for a higher calling. You're not doing something for secularism or for popularity or for money. You're doing it for the nuclear family. You're doing it for what you believe in. And it's really hard for someone coming from the secular world to say, that doesn't make any sense. The kids are a real pain in the neck. I don't need them. I'm going to focus on me as long as I'm happy and I feel good. And I think that's the total opposite of what we're talking about.
Yeah, it's a very short term. That's a very short term view. Your kids will hate you and then you'll die alone. So good luck with that. But secularists they're missing a lot more than just that. So I do it for truth. I love truth. I love the truth. I only want the truth. And I've been accused of being a little bit too bold with the truth. But that's,
I think we need some amazing women being bold with the truth, being honest. I'm thankful for you. So keep it up for sure.
Yeah. So, and here's the thing, like I figured out the secret sauce. This is the best kept secret. This is, man, they are lying to you and I don't like that. So I'm kind of vindictive against them, and I'm pro you, and I'm most importantly pro your kids. And I take that Bible verse very seriously. If anyone should cause one of mine to stumble, one of my children to stumble, let a millstone be tied around his neck and he'd be cast into the deepest ocean. If I don't do everything I can to protect the young children, then I'm worthless. Frankly, I just feel like I'm not doing. I can hardly do enough.
And when did you see that shift in Hollywood, as far as that political shift, that ideological shift?
Yeah, so I think the shift in Hollywood came very gradually. I noticed it when we moved back. I hadn't really paid much attention until we moved back to Hollywood. And then I joined a clandestine group that was pro America. This is after 9/11. And they felt the need to form a group. It was like a support group for actors and actresses and even people behind the camera who were pro America. There was this distinctive point during 9/11 where they kind of split, and it was the craziest thing. It was like, well, America brought it on to herself. We egged on the attack or whatever, and I'm like, but that makes no sense. Those were innocent lives that were lost. Those were innocent lives that were irreparably damaged from the loss. Like, anyway, so I noticed that. And then as my husband started speaking out, I started writing. I wrote under a pseudonym because I thought that I could. And then somebody discovered who I was, and I was like, "Oh, so the pseudonym's just a scam. I can't do that." And my husband started speaking out more and more, and I said to him, you can't speak out if you want to continue your career.
Mm.
You will sacrifice your career." And he said, "I don't care," because he's ideological like I am, and he loves the truth. And I think he thought that he was kind of invincible, and they shocked him by dumping him unceremoniously. And so that I think that was a shock to him, but he was prepared for it. He was like, "Okay, then let's go. I'm just going to go do my own thing." And so that's what he's done, and he's done a dang good job of it. It's really incredible. Uh, the films that he's been able to participate in, the films that he's made himself, the films that he's directed and acted in. I mean, they tell a fantastic story of faith and hope and redemption and the good things that people should see and appreciate in life.
Do you see a little bit of the pendulum swinging back in Hollywood as far as like movies like Mother Cabrini, and you see actors like Mark Wahlberg and what's his name, Mel Gibson getting together and trying to promote some type of pro-life, pro-family? It seems like there's some headways, because I think at the end of the day, unfortunately for these people, it's about money. And when you make crappy movies and Disney keeps making crappy movies, they're going to have to wake up sooner or later and say, okay, we made a mistake, because that's what they rule. They can lose money for a few years, but then after a while, the pain starts setting in. The last time a good Marvel movie came out, I don't even remember the last time a good Marvel movie came out, or a Disney movie. So do you see that pendulum swinging?
Well, first, I'm going to push back just a little bit because we think that it's about the money because we're logical, but they're not. They're emotional, and it's not really about the money.
Uh,
And yeah, you're right. Eventually, they're going to have to wake up because they're going to be really out.
mm-hmm.
Then I go, so how are they continuing? I think they're getting money from another source. I think that right now we have undergone an invasion
Mm-hmm.
of people who hate America. And there are nefarious forces at play, and I don't pretend to understand the whole gist of it all. But a shift in Hollywood, I don't know that I would say it's premature to suggest that. I think that
Mm-hmm.
some people are recognizing that they maybe have a little bit more power than they thought and that they can do more of what they want. Dr. Phil, for one, uh, it took him long enough, but I understand that he's now started something where he's not being forced to not discuss his spirituality, his faith, other people's spirituality and faith. Like whereas the contract that he had before, he was prohibited from doing so. And so he finally, the story goes that he walked into the control room and said, "I am too old and too rich to allow you to shut this down," or whatever. And so now he's off doing a joint venture with some religious types, I guess. So there's hope, I think, in the sense that we've all had a rude awakening.
Yeah.
And it might be too late. And I'm praying that it's not too late. I think that if enough families keep their children out of the government indoctrination slave camps, factory schools, right? That there will be enough young men who understand what's at stake, who are willing to fight.
Yeah.
And it is a fight. I mean, I don't know if it's going to be violent, but I think there's a fight that's coming because there are forces that are arrayed against the good people of the United States of America. And by that, I mean the true citizens who love this nation and the people who love freedom. And then there are just a ton of people that are kind of wishy-washy in the middle who don't really understand what's going on. They've been taught not to think because they went to school. School teaches you not to think. And so they're oblivious. And they're just going to get sort of caught in the middle. Maybe they'll be forced to decide one way or the other, and there's no telling which way they'll fall.
Yeah, I do have hope. And even like listening to you, I even remember during the shutdown, a lot of people contacted us like, how do you homeschool? What do we do? Because I really think that's the beginning of it, to realize that, okay, I can do it. Because how many women, I'm sure, have talked to you, said, I'm not capable of doing it. And I think during the shutdown proved everyone wrong. They were capable of it. They might not like it, but they could do it.
Well, some of them were convinced that they should never, ever try it. And so they were basically galvanized to never bring their kids out of school.
Yes.
But there were others who went, well, what the schools are doing is just plain stupid, and I can certainly do better than that. Thankfully, right? So I do agree with you. What I've started saying to people, and it's funny because now I'm hearing this everywhere, but I've been saying it for a while, but I've been hearing like a regurgitation of it in different different meters, right? If you do what the school, as long as you don't do what the schools do, you'll be on the right track. And like Alex Jones the other day said, whatever Viacom and Disney or CNN tell you to do, if you do the opposite, you'll be on the right track. And so like this is the new mantra. As long as you're not doing what the elitists or the experts tell you to do, you'll be on the right track. As long as you don't do what the big pharma corp.gov is telling you to do, you'll be on the right track. Like it's crazy. It's crazy because we were all raised to trust the experts. That's what school trains you to do. That's what the factory school is. It's trust the expert, do your job.
And it goes back to your daughter feeling the way she did in kindergarten, because you have to be at this level, at this age, no matter who you are, no matter your passions or whatever. And so first graders feel dumb because they're not as the level they are to the next kid. And that's the beauty of homeschooling. From what I've experienced is my kids are at different levels at different times. They understand things when they get to college that I'm like, wow, how come you didn't understand that when I was trying to teach you? Maybe it was me, but my point is, it comes when it comes, and it's just.
Oh, that is such a good point. Seriously, you should sit on that for just a minute for people to absorb that. Stop comparing yourself to other people and stop comparing your kids to other kids. It comes when it comes. They will learn. If they don't, Einstein didn't speak till he was like 4 or something. Like if they don't understand it today, they'll understand it eventually. I actually was blessed because when my daughter was 3, she refused to potty train. And rather than get upset and lose patience and all of that, I really prefer not to do any of that stuff. So I just kept telling myself, well, by the time she's 16, she'll be fine. Like, you know what I mean? Give it a rest.
Yes. Yeah.
Bring peace into your life and give that stress that other people are feeding into you. Just give it a rest. Your children are unique. They're beautiful. They're wonderfully made, and they're yours.
Yeah.
Have fun.
Yeah. I think what you just said will decrease people's stress. The moms out there who was freaking out of, my kid's nursing too long. They're not doing this yet at this age. Please listen to what Sam just said.
Sam,
because moms need to hear that.
What are your thoughts on college? Do you think kids should go to college as well? Do
you think we should send them off to college?
This is what happened with our first daughter. Our first daughter went to college she went for Flagler College for film and production, and she lasted a year, and she actually quit because she said the people were weird and she didn't like it, and she ended up getting a theology and philosophy, and then she ended up doing missionary work. So I didn't have to convince her to do that. It was really, I was really lucky with that one.
I had faith because I knew she was a very good, solid. She had a good, solid foundation, and I said, I'm going to let her figure it out by herself. And I just sat there and watched it. She lived at home, and I just would watch her come home. And I'm like, "How was class?" She's like, "Oh," I'm like, "Okay." But it's one of those
some
things.
Weird stuff.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. So what are your thoughts about college then? I mean, do you send kids to school?
Okay. If your child wants to do medicine or law, they don't need college. Haha, you didn't see that coming, did you?
I did not.
They can take the LSAT, they can take the MCAT, and if they pass, not having gone to college, they'll probably get into any medical or law school that they want, right? Give that some thought. The only reason to go to college is for the end result. It's the only place where we spend money and we don't know what we're buying. I'm going to spend $80,000 this year, and I'm not sure what my son or daughter is going to come home with for my cash. Like, that's crazy. Okay. So, and I know too many people who are doing it. I know too many people. My two boys both made the decision that college wasn't for them. My first one said, he told me when he was 16, I know what college I want to go to. And I said, oh, that's awesome. What do you want to study? He said, well, I want to be an actor. And I said, oh, darling, you don't need to go to college to be an actor. And he thought about it and he thought, why do they teach acting there? And I said, because they can take your money. So then my second son was thinking about college, and he visited his girlfriend at this tiny little Christian college, very good school, supposedly. And he hated the people. He's like, the kids were all duds. Most of them were homeschooled, incidentally, but he just didn't find interesting people. And he's like, I don't know why I would want to spend 4 years in a place that is not interesting to me. And the friend that he was visiting hated the fact that she was attending there, but her parents made her go. And so he had no impetus. And so that sort of soured him for the whole thing. And he decided he wanted to be an actor. So that was his story. My third child is an artist who has never taken a lesson from anybody. She is self-taught via YouTube and other resources. And she said to me when she was like 16, she said, I might want to go to college for business. And I said to her, well, that's excellent, but you should know that if you study business in college, the likelihood of any of your professors ever having owned a business successfully is very, very slim. And she's like, they can do that? And I'm like, they can do so much more. So my feeling, look, it's just like school. If you keep your kids home, they have so much more that they can learn from you. You're a small businessman. Well, I would imagine, right? You can teach them how to run a business. You can teach them how to start a business. You can teach them all kinds of things that a 22-year-old newly graduated from a Marxist teaching college has no idea about. All she knows is classroom management. Like the whole premise is so absurd. We send our kids to school. The only reason we send our kids to school is because that's the way it's done. It's the most absurd thing if you really think about it. And so it's basically the same thing with college. Now, if your son says, but I want to be an engineer and I really want to study this kind of engineering, and this school has that particular equipment that I really want to work on, because most colleges are training kids for jobs that don't exist anymore.
Yes.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, there's just so much wrong with it that it's like threading a needle to figure out the right combination that makes college really make sense.
Mm-hmm.
I had a college recruiter say to me, his daughter was going to go to college, and he was insistent that she pick a good school. And he said, well, I think of college as like a halfway house to real life. And I just looked at him and I went, I'm just preparing my kids for real life. That's what I'm doing. I'm not paying someone else to do it. I'm not paying hundreds of thousands of dollars for someone else to do it. Like,
Yeah.
they're just weird. I got into a debate kind of haphazardly with a guy who he thought that he was really great stuff because he ran for office and he won. So, and good for him. Like, he ran for office and he won. And he said that he hires college kids. He hires them fresh out of college. He doesn't even want to know what their degree's in. He figures that if they were smart enough to like run the gauntlet and get through college, that they have something to offer. And I looked at him and I said, that's so weird, because I would think that you would want the kids who were too smart to do that crap.
Yeah, that's the bar. The bar is low.
The bar is low. I love that. That's true. The bar is like super low.
Yes.
I think it kind of all ties in together of, having children, staying at home, being married, living the life that it used to be. I think a lot of times we don't do it, or people in the world are afraid to not send their kids to college because then other people will be like, oh, did they not do well on the SATs or whatever it is? Oh, did you mean to have that many children? Like, was that, you know what I mean? Like, there's always this weird negativity.
I remember the last time that I felt really like convicted. Like, I was at an event, a society event, and these two society gals were chatting with me. We were talking, and the one, her daughter was going to Princeton, and the other one, her son was going to, MIT or whatever. And they were, and where's your son? And I said, well, my son is 20. He still lives at home. And I'm starting to feel like, oh my gosh, I sound like hillbilly from Hicksville or whatever. And then the third gal, who was just sort of, we hadn't gotten around to her yet, she goes, oh my gosh, I've met her son. He is amazing. First of all, he's an amazing dancer. But not only that, he's already published a book, right? What's his book called? And I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. I guess I'm not ashamed of him.
That's hysterical.
To bring about the college thing, Sam, what I would say to anybody listening is it's called an ROI. What is your return on investment? If you're paying $300,000 for a 4-year degree that you need to go for 2 more years, so you're into it for $400,000, that's after taxes. So you got to make $600 to pay $400, and you're getting out making $48,000 a year. Good luck with that. That's not really going to work anymore. And I think it's go now and then pay later. That's the other problem. And I think ultimately what we did is community college for a couple of them. If you want to go to community college, there's dual enrollment in Florida. So while you're going to high school, you can get college and figure it out and learn what you like there. And obviously, I think, like you said, if you want to become, a doctor, or you want to get into law, or I love business classes in college because you can learn about, profit and loss statement of cash flows, accounting classes. There are certain things that you can learn, but you don't need to get a degree in those as well. So I agree with you.
You can go online and take tutorials about accounting and stuff. Like, what I love is that you're approaching it as a business, right? Because it is a business proposition. Where did you learn your business skills?
Learning from pops. Yeah, I know.
Right?
Yeah,
you didn't go to school to learn that, because they don't teach you business skills in school, because then the gig would be up, right? If they taught you like what the real thing about money is, we would vote them all out of office.
Yeah.
Yes, you're right about that.
And the thing is too about college is you're basically asking a 17 or even 16-year-old, what would you like to do for the rest of your life? And I always think it's funny because I am still trying to figure it out. I'm 48 and I keep changing my thoughts.
You guys have such great sort of input. The idea that you have to pick one thing is so absurd. This
and then
nation,
the guidance council helps you pick it, by the way. And it's not even you. It's the person in there that just met you maybe 2 weeks ago for the first time. She's going to help you decide what you're going to do with the rest of your life, not your mother or your father.
This nation is the greatest experiment in human history. And it's been so vastly more successful than anybody ever dared to dream, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it was founded by what we would term today are geniuses. And none of them went to school. And none of them did only one thing.
Mm-hmm.
They all did everything. And Benjamin Franklin was like the Michael Jackson of his time.
Bro.
Like, we think of him as some old guy, but he literally was bigger than Michael Jackson, because Michael Jackson had the benefit of the internet and publishing. And Benjamin Franklin barely had that, right? He invented the way of capturing lightning and determining electricity. He he was a publisher, he was a writer, so he was an author. He was also a diplomat. He's the only individual that signed all 4 of our founding documents: the treaty with England, the peace treaty with England, the treaty with France, the Declaration of Independence, and the Constitution. He was remarkable, and he never went to school. He was an indentured servant to his brother, and he ran away. And then years later, he reconciled with his brother for leaving him high and dry. Like he was an incredible individual, but not because he was like super, super brilliant, which maybe he was, but because he was self-educated the entire way, self-educated. And he was super educated. He designed our form of government. And he never went to school. We've been raised to think that the school is our saving grace, that the school is our holy grail somehow. And that's a lie. And it's a lie that serves them and disserves us.
Sam, you seem like a very similar personality type to my wife, because my wife always comes up to me and says, I've got a great idea. You're working too hard, Gino, but I've got this great idea. What do you have on the horizon? Because it seems as if you've got so many fires going, so many projects. We don't know what we
want to do yet.
So many books. I mean, like, what's going on in Sam's world?
Oh, you're asking me that. Okay.
I'm asking you that, yes.
So I have a new resource that I put together called the Homeschool Starter Gift Set.
All right.
So this is it's a package of resources for people who are thinking, yeah, I really need to start homeschooling, but I don't know where to go. I've got sample curricula in there. I've got books that are worth your time. Like I've collated a number of resources for families. So that's coming out. I have a new show on patriot.tv every day at 4 p.m. That's live. And it's news and events through a classical Christian worldview. Just shooting some movies when they come up, not really looking for it. God redeemed my film career, by the way. Like that just came right back at me in a very, I think we so misunderstand the word sacrifice that we don't get that when we put ourselves out there in a way that we feel like, wow, I'm really giving up stuff. I hope this pays off, that it actually pays off twofold. Like it pays off from a materialist standpoint, but it also pays off spiritually, maybe. And so, I walked away from my career twice, basically. And then God redeemed my career. I starred in a major motion picture that was in theaters for 4 months. And you know what I mean? So like, I'm good. And I really never had anything to prove anyway, but I'm having fun with that and really enjoying watching my children, who are now 22, 20, and 18. My daughter's about to graduate. And it's a beautiful thing.
That's beautiful. Wow. I love that. And my husband's going to do a wrap up, but I just want to thank you for being like that voice, because women need a strong voice like yours to speak truth and to show the amazingness of women in the world and what impact we have on the children, because we're raising the children to be adults in the world, and they're going to change the world, and it's going to go on and on. And so that's, go ahead.
So Sam Sorbo, young woman, 1 of 5, doesn't really have a dad. Mom tells her she's got to go to college. You've got to make the money. So she goes to college, but then she does this acting gig for a year. It makes a ton of money and goes, do I really got to go back to college? I don't really know if I got to go back to college. Goes back, doesn't really go back, and finds her way and starts acting, gets married. And the great thing I like about the story more than anything else is the fact that when her husband got sick, that she parted ways and stayed home with her husband. And in many ways, you are a reflection of what my wife would do, to sacrifice everything for something that really means everything in the world. You understand what your priorities are. You understand what's important to you, and you focused on that. And that critical and crucial day when your daughter ran to you, sat on your lap and goes, Nanny, be gone. I don't need you anymore. And you understood that that's where I need to be. God is sending me a message. He's talking to me, and I am open for that message. And I hear the message, and that probably changed the trajectory of my life and raising my children, having them as the focus. And then as I get older, all of a sudden, these other opportunities are out there. And I know the real reason why you're doing all this is because you're like my wife. You're competing with your husband. You're trying to beat him, so, quietly. It's like, I got to compete. I got to beat Kevin because I know how that is.
I already did.
Exactly. You see what I'm saying? Exactly. I read it perfectly.
I'm going to take that line many times.
Listen, I want to thank you for being on the show, for being open, honest, and just sharing your amazing journey, because you probably wouldn't have been here if you stayed home and lived the life and fell into the Hollywood world and focused on that. You would have been somebody completely different, not living your true gift and your true purpose for being on this planet. And you found that out. And that's what I think, we want everybody listening to the show to really end up doing. If you're called to stay at home and be a mother and raise your kids, or be a dad and go to work, whatever that calling is, just be open and honest to yourself.
It's a good point.
Sam, thanks so much. Everyone, thanks for listening.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
I'm just going to end it by saying, if you want to change the world, go home and love your kids. That's all you got to do. Do that and you'll be okay. Thanks, Sam. We appreciate it.
Love it.